Hi, I'm Pattu from freefincal. Today, let's talk about an article I wrote a few days earlier. How should I invest to get rupees 1 lakh a month pension? This is the question that was sent in by a reader. Before we get to that, I just wanted to say that the September equity mutual fund performance screener is now available. You can get it from the main page of freefincal.com. So this was the question posed by 35-year-old Prakash. I would like to get 1 lakh a month pension when I retire. How should I invest to achieve this? Now we have this kind of fixation with lakhs and crores, and we need to think past that. And 1 lakh a month pension is when Prakash retires, say 20-25 years from now, it's going to be a very, very small amount. So let's do this. We have talked about this kind of retirement planning illustration several times before, and this is just going to be one of them. Of course, the main point is no matter how difficult or daunting the numbers look like, the most important aspect is that time that Prakash has got 20 years to achieve enough money for his retirement, and I think it's possible with just a little bit of effort and some additional income if necessary. For most people it is going to be additional income, I think. All right, so let's say Prakash's essential expenses today are about 30,000. Essential expenses means expenses that will last into retirement. That is, we don't count school fees, tuition fees, that kind of thing. EMIs are not counted. So it's just the basic essential expenses for living a reasonable life. What Prakash is currently leading. So that's going to be 30,000, let's say. Even if you use a simple inflation of 6%, it's really the real inflation would be a little bit higher than that. But even at 6%, at age 55, those same expenses at age 30 would have become 96,000. So basically about 1 lakh. So, and if you are going to say that I need 1 lakh a month pension, then you have to take into account tax. So 1 lakh a month pension means it's 12 lakhs a year. That's going to be the post-tax income. To get that, you need about 14 lakhs before tax income, assuming about 20%. Because it's 20 years later, I've assumed a slightly lower slab than the current tax rate, 10% lower. So we'll assume that 14 lakhs before tax, 12 lakhs after tax, and that 1 lakh a month pension is going to look like this. That's that flat blue line. Whereas the expenses that we considered when Prakash was 55 would have would have kept growing at 6% a year like this, and obviously it's going to keep growing even after retirement, and there's going to be a huge gap between the pension and the actual expenses. Now one can argue that inflation will come down in India after 20 years and so on. That is true, but please recognize that we have not taken into account any additional expenses. There will always be new expenses like medicine costs, additional trips to the doctor and so on. So it's always better to not lower inflation in future, but to handle it like this at 6% at least. The most important point is that this illustration has to be repeated year after year after year, before retirement and after retirement, to make sure to understand where Prakash is with respect to his retirement corpus. So that has to be taken into account every year. This is not a one-time effort. It has to be done annually. So even if you consider for let's say 14 lakh a year before tax income, Prakash will have to buy an annuity from an insurer, and 20 years down the line, the annuity rates are going to be small. And even if you consider a very generous rate of 5.5%, maybe he will buy some bonds or something like that. Then for 14 lakh a year, 5.5% interest rate means that 2.5 crores are necessary for buying the annuity or buying the bond. So even for getting small constant pension, 1 lakh is relatively small because of the inflation, and for that a person needs to be a multi-crorepati, something that I have been saying. Now there is this income gap between the actual expenses and this pension. This pension is called the income floor. That's the income floor of the retiree, and you have to compensate for this gap. I have talked about income flooring in a separate video. I have shown how to calculate the corpus necessary for this grab. So 2.5 crores for generating that 1 lakh pension. Another 2 crores is necessary, assuming you have a post-tax retirement income of 7%. That's a very generous number after 20 years. But even then, you see the numbers are very, very large. So 2.5 plus 2 crores, that's about 4.5 crores that Prakash needs to achieve at 55 or so. And even if you assume that between 35 and age 55, Prakash is able to achieve a portfolio return of about 9 to 10% after tax for the next 20 years, which is again a very difficult thing to do, then he would need to invest about 35,000 to 40,000 a month, and this investment amount has to increase 6% year on year. That is, it has to match the inflation to get close to the 4.5 crore mark. This means that Prakash will have to, whatever his essential expenses today are, he has to match that investment, that amount by an investment. So basically, if your essential expenses is X, your investment towards retirement has to be X. That's where the problem is. And as I had made this video in Tamil, and one person rightly pointed out, this is just for retirement investments. You have to take into account your children and other goals and so on. So it's a massive problem. So you will have to stop thinking in terms of this pension. And if you say that I'm going to forego that 1 lakh pension and think of a corpus that's going to be that's going to be invested in different buckets of different risks, and I'm going to draw money from that every year, just like a standard retirement problem, then that probably a little bit that 4.5 crores will come down, but still it's a huge amount of money. And the thumb rule that if X is the essential expense, X is going to be the investment towards retirement. That thumb rule cannot be done away with. So you'll have to. So the basic takeaways are 1 lakh is just a number. It doesn't mean anything if you don't factor in inflation. Pension is a very important component, but it's only one component of a retirement plan. You have to think of it as one entity in your retirement portfolio basket. Something a term coined by PV Subramaniam of subramani.com. So you have to take into account investment risk and take on investment risk when we are young, because later on it's not possible to do it. We have to, even if you invest 50-60% in equity, you still need to invest as much as you spend for retirement. And please don't take on any new debt unless otherwise absolutely necessary. Please don't add on any new expenses unless otherwise is absolutely necessary. And what is most important, I've been talking about passive income. I'm trying to build a course on this. Please try and consider an additional source of income if you cannot handle the investment amount necessary. It's going to be a crucial part of your retirement plan. Catch you later. Bye-bye.